The forgotten howlers. The dead moon. The wind screamed across X-42's cracked plains, carrying dust that stung like needles. Neria curled her massive body around her cubs, their silver-blue fur matted with grime. Once, she'd led a pack of 200. Now, only these 2 whimpering pups remained. The Galactic Council had called them Valkyrs howlers, perfect soldiers, until they'd refused to slaughter civilians. Their reward: abandonment on this airless rock. Neria bared her fangs at the twin suns. They'd left her no prey, no water, just starvation. Her cubs nuzzled her ribs, their bellies swollen with hunger. She licked their ears, a low growl vibrating in her throat. Not yet, not while they breathe. The human's sin. Captain Elitist Rost's boot crunched on X-42's brittle soil. His scanner beeped erratically. Life signs. Here. The moon was a graveyard for the Council's failed experiments. But the readout was clear. 3 heat signatures. Moving. Elias adjusted his oxygen mask. He'd been demoted to scavenger duty after defending a peaceful alien colony from Council bombs. Now, he hunted scrap metal, not survivors. Yet curiosity tugged him toward the signal. First blood. Neria smelled the human before she saw him. Metal. Sweat. Fear. Her hackles rose. She shoved the cubs behind a boulder and lunged. Elias barely dodged. Neria's claws tore his sleeve, revealing scarred arms. He didn't reach for his blaster. Instead, he tossed a protein bar between them. Easy, girl. I'm not them. Neria froze. The Council never fed their weapons. The cubs crept forward, sniffing. Elias knelt, hands open. Yeah, it's food. The smaller cub, Kael, licked the wrapper. Neria snarled, but Elias didn't flinch. I know what they did to you, he murmured. I'm sorry. The truce. Neria's ears flicked. This human smelled of regret, not deceit. She let the cubs eat, watching Elias with slit pupilled eyes. When he pulled out a canteen, she allowed him to pour water into a crevice for them. As the pups drank, Elias studied Neria's scared flank. They left you to die, he said softly. But I won't. Neria didn't understand his words. But his tone, that was a language she knew. Somewhere above, a Council patrol ship streaked across the sky. Elias looked up. We're out of time. The bond beyond words. A fragile trust. Neria watched the human. Elias returned the next cycle, his boots kicking up dust under X-42's pale suns. He carried a sack this time, its contents clinking softly. The cubs perked up, their ears twitching. They remembered the food from before. Elias stopped a few paces away, dropping the sack, and slowly kneeling. Brought more, he said, voice muffled by his breather mask. He pulled out sealed nutrient packs, the kind soldiers used in the field. Neria sniffed the air. No poison, no deceit, just meat. Kael, the boulder cub, darted forward and snatched a pack, tearing into it with tiny fangs. His sister, Vesa, hesitated, pressing against Neria's leg. The alpha female nudged her forward. Eat. Elias exhaled, relieved. Good. That's good. The howlers passed. Neria's memories were fragmented, but she remembered the before. The cold metal halls of the breeding facilities. The scent of fear from the creatures her pack was forced to hunt. The way the Galactic Council's handlers had praised her for slaughter, until the day she refused. She had been the first to turn on her masters. The others followed. They were warriors, not murderers. The Council's punishment had been swift. Elias studied her scared muzzle, the jagged line where a shock collar had burned into her fur. They hurt you, he muttered, just like they hurt everyone who doesn't obey. Neria didn't understand his words, but she recognized the anger in his voice. It matched her own. The patrol draws near. Distant hum cut through the silence. Elias stiffened, his head snapping toward the horizon. A sleek, silver drone skimmed the rocks, its scanners sweeping the ground. Council tech. Neria's growl was instinctive. She shoved the cubs behind her, fur bristling. Elias cursed under his breath. They're looking for something. Or someone. He had been careful. No transmissions, no traces. But the council didn't need evidence. They erased first and asked questions never. The drone's beam flickered toward them. A moment of choice. Elias acted without thinking. He grabbed the nearest rock and hurled it far to the left. The drone's sensors pinged, veering toward the noise. Neria stared at him. Why? He met her gaze. We need to move. Now. She didn't understand his words, but she understood danger. With a low chuff, she nudged the cubs forward, keeping them close as Elias led them toward a network of caves deeper in the wastes. The Cave of Echoes. The cavern was dark, the air thick with the scent of old stone. Elias flicked on a small glow stick, casting eerie blue light over the walls. The cubs pressed against Neria, their tiny bodies trembling. Elias crouched, pulling out a portable scanner. We're shielded here, for now. Neria watched him. This human was different. He fought for them, not against them. She stepped forward, lowering her head until her muzzle brushed his outstretched hand. A silent vow. Pack. The council's hunt. The hunter arrives. The silence of X-42 was shattered by the roar of engines. A sleek, armored dropship carved through the thin atmosphere, its thrusters kicking up storms of dust as it landed near the caves. Elias pressed against the cavern wall, his pulse pounding. They shouldn't be here. The council didn't waste live operatives on cleanup unless they suspected something valuable. Neria's ears flattened. She recognized the scent wafting in with the wind. Kovek, a genetically enhanced tracker, bred to hunt rogue specimens. The cubs whimpered. Vesa buried herself in Neria's flank, while Kael bared his tiny fangs. Elias tightened his grip on his stolen pulse pistol. We can't stay here. A deadly game. Kovek's voice crackled over the comms. Captain Frost, you were always sentimental. Elias froze. They knew it was him. Neria snarled, sensing the threat. She nudged the cubs deeper into the cave, then turned to Elias, her violet eyes burning with silent command. Go. Fight. Elias exhaled. All right, but if I don't come back. Neria growled, cutting him off. No retreat. The trap. Elias moved like a ghost through the jagged rocks, using the terrain to mask his heat signature. Kovek was good, but he was overconfident. A shadow shifted near the cave entrance. Elias fired. The shot grazed Kovek's shoulder, but the hunter barely flinched, still using standard issue. He smirked, tapping his armored chest. Pathetic. Then, movement behind him. Neria struck like lightning, her fangs sinking into Kovek's thigh. He roared, slamming an electrified gauntlet into her ribs. She yelped but didn't let go. Elias lunged, driving his knife into Kovek's side. You don't touch her. The cub's secret. Kael, trembling behind a rock, let out a high-pitched whine. And the air rippled. Kovek's eyes widened. Telepathic disruption. The cubs are evolving. Elias didn't hesitate. He shot Kovek point-blank in the visor. Silence. Neria limped to Kael, licking his ears. Elias stared at the corpse. The council would send more now. They'd want the cubs alive. No turning back. Elias dragged Kovek's body into the cave. We need to leave. Now. Neria growled in agreement. But as Elias activated his distress beacon, the one he swore he'd never use, he knew the truth. There was no safe place left in the galaxy for them. The escape plan. A ghost from the past. The distress signal crackled through dead channels for 3 cycles before a response came. Elias recognized the encryption. Jax Morin, the only smuggler who'd ever outrun council blockades twice. The hologram flickered to life, revealing Jax's scared face. Vrost, you're either desperate or stupid to ping me. his mechanical eye whirred as it focused. "Wait, you've got howlers with you." Elias kept his voice low. "I need extraction. 1 adult, 2 cubs." Jax whistled. "You don't ask for much, do you? Council's offering a fortune for those things, alive." Neria growled, her claws digging into the stone. Elias didn't blink. "Name your price." "The price of freedom." Jax wanted 3 things. Elias's war medals, proof he turned traitor. The coordinates of the abandoned Valkyr labs, where Neria was bred. A favor to be called in later. Kael whined, his fur sparking with static. Vesa mimicked him, and the cave lights flickered. Jax's eye dilated. "Oh hell, the cubs are sensing. That's new." Elias clenched his jaw. "Deal. But we leave in 6 hours." Modifying the ship, Jax's freighter, the Rustfang, was a patchwork nightmare, perfect for hiding contraband. Elias helped reroute the life support systems to accommodate Neria's biology, while Jax watched, arms crossed. "You know they'll chase us," Jax said. "Council doesn't lose assets." Elias wiped grease from his hands. "Then we make sure they can't follow." Neria watched them work, her ears twitching at every sound. The cubs played near her paws, their telepathic pulses growing stronger. The traitor's signal. Unseen in the shadows, a small drone observed them. It beeped once. A transmission burst, before Elias crushed it under his boot. "Jax, we've got a problem." The smuggler checked his scanners. "Someone tag your cave. Council's en route. 20 minutes max." Elias looked at Neria. "Time to go." She herded the cubs toward the ship, but Kael hesitated, staring at the sky. His pupils dilated. He sensed something. A roar split the air. The ambush. A Council dropship descended, its plasma cannons charging. Jax swore, "They're not taking prisoners." Elias shoved Neria into the Rustfang's hold. "Go, I'll hold them off." Neria bit his arm, dragging him inside. "No, pack stays together." Jax slammed the ignition. "Hold on to something." The ship lurched upward as plasma fire scorched the ground where they'd stood. The jump. As the Rustfang breached orbit, alarms blared. "Warship locking on," Jax yelled. Elias gripped Neria's fur. "Can the cubs disrupt their targeting?" Kael and Vesa whined, pressing together. The ship's lights flared. Then the pursuing vessel's systems glitched. Jax punched the hyperdrive. "Kids are scary. I like him." Space twisted around them as they jumped. But Elias knew the truth. They were now fugitives in a galaxy that wanted them dead. The trial of fire. Captured. The Rustfang never stood a chance. Elias woke in a sterile white cell, his wrists bound by neural cuffs. Across the chamber, Neria and the cubs were sealed inside a reinforced containment field, their growls echoing against the energy barrier. A holographic screen flickered to life, displaying High Justice Vera, the Council's most merciless arbiter. "Captain Elias Frost," she intoned, "you stand accused of treason, theft of military assets, and harboring bioweapons. How do you plead?" Elias spat blood on the floor. "Not guilty of theft. They're not assets. They're living beings." The courtroom erupted in laughter. The show trial. The Council's evidence was damning. Footage of Elias aiding Neria, scans of the cubs' abilities, Kovacs quartz. Vera sneered. "These creatures are property. Their only purpose is war." Neria slammed against the barrier, her fangs bared. The cubs huddled together, their fur crackling with energy. Elias clenched his fists. "Then why are you afraid of them?" Silence. Kael's awakening. As Vera sentenced Elias to execution, Kael whimpered, a sound that pierced the chamber like a knife. Then the cub howled. The neural cuffs on Elias's wrists short-circuited. The containment field flickered. Neria's eyes locked onto Elias. Now, the truth unleashed. Kael's telepathy exploded outward, flooding the courtroom with images. The Valkyr labs. Howlers strapped to tables, screaming as their minds were torn apart. Neria's defiance. Her pack turning on their masters, choosing death over slaughter. Elias's hand offering food. The first kindness they'd ever known. The audience recoiled. A child in the gallery started crying. Vera's face twisted in rage. Lies. These beasts are programmed to manipulate. Then Vesa joined her brother. The entire chamber heard her voice. Not words, but feeling. Pain. Loneliness. Hope. Chaos. Protesters outside the courthouse erupted. News feeds blared across the galaxy. Council's war crimes exposed. Elias lunged for Neria as the containment field failed. We have to move. But Vera wasn't done. She triggered the emergency protocol. Terminate the specimens. Turrets descended from the ceiling. The escape. Neria shielded the cubs as Elias grabbed a fallen guard's rifle. Jax, he roared into his comm. We need pickup now. A familiar voice crackled back. Already here, hero. The courthouse wall exploded as the Rustfang crashed through. Elias didn't look back as they ran. The galaxy was watching now. And the council. They'd just lost control of the narrative. The Howlers' roar. Galactic firestorm. The footage spread like supernova radiation. Within hours, protests erupted on 100 worlds. Crowds chanted outside council towers, their signs glowing with holos of Neria and her cubs. #Free Howlers trended across the interstellar nets. Elias watched the chaos from the Rustfang's cockpit, his fingers tapping nervously. They're scared. That's why they're fighting back. Neria growled in agreement, her ears twitching at the news feeds. The cubs slept curled against her, exhausted from their telepathic surge. Jack smirked, steering the ship toward a derelict space station. Scared? Nah. They're pissed. And pissed people break things. The defector. The station's airlock hissed open, revealing a hunched figure in a tattered lab coat. Dr. Liravosk, the lead geneticist of the Valkyr project. Her hands trembled as she handed Elias a data crystal. They were never just weapons, she whispered. The Howlers were designed to feel, so they'd understand their target's fear. But the Council never expected them to reject it. Elias activated the crystal. Holograms bloomed. Blueprints of the Howlers' brains, their empathy circuits glowing red. Neria snarled at the images, her claws unsheathing. Lyra flinched. I tried to shut the project down. They sentenced me to death for it. Elias met Neria's eyes. We can use this. The pack rises. The data crystal held more than secrets. It had coordinates. Dozens of Howlers were still imprisoned in black site labs. Neria threw back her head and howled, a sound that vibrated through the ship's hull. Kael and Vesa joined in, their voices sensing. Across the galaxy, hidden in cages and dark rooms, other Howlers answered. The Council's move. High Justice Vera watched the riots from her flagship, her reflection warped in the observation glass. Deploy the Omega Protocol, she ordered. Sterilize the Valkyr facilities. A tactical officer hesitated. Ma'am, there are still scientists on site. Vera didn't blink. Burn them. Storming the lab. Elias's team hit the Valkyr research station at dawn. Neria led the charge, her body a silver blur as she tore through the guards. Freed Howlers, some scared, some missing eyes, joined her, their howls shaking the walls. Kael and Vesa disabled the security systems with a psychic pulse. Elias found the control room and slammed his palm on the console. This is Captain Elias Roast, broadcasting on all channels. The Council just ordered the murder of their own people. Look at the screens. Remember this. Every monitor in the galaxy flickered to life, showing Vera's death order, and the Howlers saving the fleeing scientists. The tide turns. A warship decloaked above the lab. Not Council. The Free Fleet. A rebel armada. Hailed Elias. We're with you, Captain. Tell us where to point our guns. Neria stood beside Elias, her chest heaving. The cubs pressed against his legs. For the first time, he smiled. To the Council's heart, a new dawn. The final charge. The Free Fleet's warships tore through the Council's defensive lines, their guns blazing. Elias stood on the bridge of the rebel flagship, Neria at his side, her ears flattened against the roar of battle. The cubs, Kael and Vesa, were safe in the med bay, their telepathic abilities still recovering from the lab assault. "We're approaching the Council spire," the rebel pilot announced. Elias tightened his grip on the railing. The spire was the heart of the Galactic Council's power, a towering fortress where High Justice Vera would make her last stand. Neria let out a low growl, her violet eyes locked on the holographic display. Elias nodded. "This ends today. The Council's last gamut." Vera wasn't defenseless. As the rebel fleet closed in, the spire's defenses activated, orbital turrets, drone swarms, and a planetary shield that shimmered into existence. "They've locked down the entire sector." Jax's voice crackled over the comm. "We can't get through." Elias clenched his jaw. Then an idea struck him. "The cubs," he said, turning to Neria. "Can they disrupt the shield?" Neria's ears twitched. She didn't understand his words, but she understood his intent. With a sharp bark, she bolted toward the medbay. The howlers roar. Kael and Vesa, though weakened, still pulsed with untapped power. Elias knelt beside them, placing a hand on Kael's head. "We need your help," he murmured. The cubs looked at each other, then at Neria. She gave a single firm nod. Kael closed his eyes. Vesa pressed against him. And then they howled. A psychic shockwave rippled through the ship, through space itself. The planetary shield flickered, then shattered like glass. Alarms blared across the spire. Storming the spire, the rebels landed in force, Elias and Neria leading the charge. Council guards fell back, their weapons useless against the tide of freed howlers and armored insurgents. Vera waited in the throne room, her face a mask of cold fury. "You think this changes anything?" she spat. "The Council ruled this galaxy for centuries. We will not fall to animals." Neria lunged. Vera fired. The shot grazed Neria's shoulder, but she didn't stop. She slammed into Vera, pinning her to the ground, her fangs inches from the High Justice's throat. Elias stepped forward. "It's over." A new era. The galaxy watched as Vera was dragged away in chains. The Council's reign collapsed within hours. In the aftermath, Elias stood on the spire's observation deck, staring at the stars. Neria joined him, her fur still matted with blood and dust. Kael and Vesa bounded in, their energy restored. They pressed against Elias's legs, their tails wagging. Jax strode in, grinning. "So, what now, hero?" Elias looked at Neria, at the cubs, at the rebellion he'd helped ignite. "Now," he said, "we build something better." Epilogue. The Howler's Legacy. Months later, on a lush frontier world, Elias walked through a thriving sanctuary, home to howlers, former lab experiments, and refugees of the old regime. Neria, now alpha of a new pack, trotted beside him. The cubs had grown, their abilities honed, their voices strong. A transmission came in, a message from the newly formed Galactic Assembly, requesting Elias's presence as a representative. He smiled, then shook his head. "I'm right where I belong." Neria nuzzled his hand. Somewhere in the distance, a howler howled, and the stars listened. The end.